Do you genuinely believe, as you suggested last Saturday, that Joe Biden wants to topple you?
How could someone who is going into a runoff election, instead of completing the election in the first round, be a dictator? That is the reality. We have an alliance with 322 MPs in Parliament, and the leader of this alliance is going to go for the runoffs in the first position. What kind of a dictator is that?
So if re-elected, are you saying that you will work with the Biden administration? You can work with the Biden administration?
Without a doubt, I will work with Mr. Biden. And if Biden goes, then I will work with whoever replaces him as well.
You've said that you don't agree with the attitude of the West towards Russia with regard the Ukraine conflict, that the West follows a policy based on provocation. I just want to get your sense of where you believe the West perhaps is going wrong here. Is this military and financial aid that we see at present a provocation to your mind?
The West is not leading a very balanced approach. You need a balanced approach towards a country such as Russia, which would have been a much more fortunate approach. For example, the Black Sea Grain Corridor Initiative. We are not only considering the interests and the needs of the Western countries, but also that of the African nations. This Grain Corridor Initiative has been extended for another 2 months beginning on the 18th of May. How do you think it was possible? It was possible because of our special relationship with President Putin. When it comes to Syria, you've brought up an important point that I'd like to elaborate on. The opposition is constantly focusing on one thing. They say when we come to power, we will send the Syrian refugees in Turkey back. It's impossible for me to agree with that. But let me say one thing. If we were to do something like that, we would have to take certain measures. Right now, Turkish NGOs are building residential units in northern parts of Syria. Why? So refugees here in Turkey can go back to their homeland. This process has already started, and right now, we're launching another initiative to encourage 1 million refugees to go back to their homeland. We're building housing units. These are good projects.
Let me just be clear here. If you are re-elected, then your policy will be to return voluntarily at least 1 million Syrian refugees of the some 4 million who are here. Is that what you're saying? Within what period of time?
Maybe even more than that, because the infrastructure investments we are making right now will be capable of hosting more refugees. That's how we are developing these projects. The refugees will go back to their homeland voluntarily.
President Erdogan, will that be a voluntary program of return? Because at present, many refugees and rights groups say that those who are voluntarily returning are not participating by choice. There have been arbitrary arrests, detentions, and the deportation of some Syrian refugees. So I just want to be clear about your policy going forward. If re-elected, what are you proposing to do with Syrian refugees here in Turkey?
When you say you want to get rid of all Syrian refugees, I will send them back, this will not generate support in Turkey, because among them are highly qualified people such as doctors, engineers, lawyers, and nurses. All of these people are highly qualified. Look at the West. Look at the United States. They've been welcoming refugees from all corners of the world who are very qualified. If we are a global state, if we are a prominent state, then we have to be very sensitive in this regard.
Let's talk about the S-400s and the controversy that has created. The purchase of those from Russia, the problems that has created for your relationship with Washington. It was the purchase of those S-400 systems that got Turkey expelled from the F-35 fighter jet program. Do you still have any hope that you'll be able to acquire F-35s in the future? Or have you got to the point where you say, we don't need them, we will have our own domestic defence sector going forward, we don't need to buy from others?
During the Trump presidency, the US had a wrong approach regarding the S-400s. Why, if we are a free democratic country taking part in a liberal global market, if I cannot purchase the defense system from the US, then it's the US that pushes us to buy a different system from a different country. We couldn't purchase those systems from the United States. That's why I bought the equivalent from Russia. And when the F-35s were not delivered to us, we were very upset because we are NATO allies. Turkey is one of the most significant members of NATO. That's when we started looking at the alternatives. When we saw the attitude of the Americans about the F-35s, we told them to at least provide us F-16s and the necessary parts so we continue our relations in a determined manner. There are some positive developments in that regard. I hope that these positive developments will continue.
What's your relationship like with the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and are you on track for a reconciliation?
In the past, we used to have positive relations with Assad's family. Our families used to get together. It was at that level. But then certain developments unfolded, unfortunately, that led to the deterioration of our relationship. And that fracture upset us as well. Because of my friendship with President Putin, we thought we could open a door, specifically in our fight against terrorism in northern part of Syria, which requires close cooperation and solidarity. If we can do that, I said, I see no obstacle would remain in the way of our reconciliation.
A few months back, President Assad said he would only meet you if Turkey withdrew its military from northern Syria. Are you prepared to do that in order to effect a reconciliation?
We have more than 900 kilometers of border, and there is a constant terror threat from those borders on our country. The only reason we have a military presence there on the border is to fight against terrorism, and that's the sole reason.
So no pullback of the Turkish military?
No, there is no consideration of that for the time being because the terror threat is still there.
How do you see Turkey's relationship with this wider Middle East and Gulf region developing going forward?
There was a period when I was seriously upset, but that's in the past now. Right now, we see Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, all of the Gulf as brotherly nations. It's not right for us to remain at odds. We've moved past that. We've started state visits to Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and after the elections, I hope relations will expand on the political, military, commercial, cultural, and economic fronts, and we will take the necessary steps to improve our relations with the Gulf states.